welcome viewers to the Personal Injury Law Show, the show that talks about everything in personal injury law and what's in the news today. With us tonight we have Nunzio Tartaglia, a partner in a major law firm in Australia. Nunzio.
Evening, John. Viewers, welcome.
And also with us tonight, Viv Ryan. How are you?
Good, thanks. Very well. Thank
the marketing guru.
Yes, well, thank you very much.
And viewers, hi, I'm John Karantzis, and tonight we're talking about what's in the news. First up, Nunzio, rich man, poor man. What's this all about? A wealth coach.
A wealth coach that apparently is, or more than apparently, is giving investment advice, John, and has been ordered to repay a couple for lost monies.
Now, this guy, George Mijos, the county court, Viv, has ruled that he negligently gave financial advice. He had no accreditation. The couple lost $100,000.
It's a really significant case, not just for this particular circumstance, it's for coaches all around the world.
Exactly.
There are life coaches, there are executive coaches, financial coaches. Whilst this gentleman didn't make himself out to be a financial coach, clearly he didn't have the correct credentials in order to advise this couple who were well-meaning, thinking that they're going to turn their dollar into many on his advice.
Well, Nunzio, he advertised these coaching seminars, these financial seminars, did advertising, but Judge Paul Cosgrove found otherwise, didn't he?
Yeah, he deemed that it was investment advice, and as you said before, he's not credited, not licensed to provide investment advice, and accordingly he had to repay the $100,000 less many monies that were left, which was only about 12 grand. So effectively his advice hasn't been fruitful.
Viewers, it's just a timely reminder. Financial advice, that's all it is. In the end, you have to follow your own gut instinct, don't you? Now, I guess the other issue that arises from this, Nunzio, is sure, there's an order by the court, but it's going to be difficult to chase that up, isn't it?
Yeah, look, depending on what he's, because as I said, there's no insurance attached to that finding. It all depends on what his financial situation's like, and if he's giving that type of advice, I'm not sure what his own bank account looks like.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
It's difficult, but I'd just like to push this point a little bit more. As a coach, they often use certain skill sets that say, we're drawing on your own knowledge to make these decisions. So it's really interesting that the court has awarded in the couple's favour because there are a lot of cowboys out there.
Oh, yes.
So I think as coaches, if you are making yourself out to be a coach, be really, really mindful of what information you're providing to your clients. I think the other thing to note here, which is why it was awarded in the couple's favour, is that he also had facilitated a line of credit that was set up, I think, for money depositing. So
great advice, Viv, great advice. Nunz, ex-student sues school for bullying.
Yeah, so a student is suing Pres Hill School on allegations of severe bullying and harassment, John. And obviously it was the bullying came from students at the school, but they're suing the school basically saying that they should have been aware of it, which they were on notice and did nothing about it. And some of the allegations are fairly strong, and some were like shoving dirt in and rubbish in her mouth and things to that effect, which are just shocking that a student would face that type
Viv,
of
what are your thoughts?
behaviour.
Well, I think, we all understand bullying's rife in our schoolyards, and again, we've got social media environments too, so it extends beyond just the day-to-day contact. And of course, this is a really tragic case. There are a couple of things to note here that are of interest. The child is suing via their parents, so their guardian.
Yes.
So the parents are actually suing for loss of future earnings on behalf of their child between the ages of 18 and 67. And also medical expenses. So is this common, and what's the likelihood of receiving compensation for something that has not yet occurred, given that children are always changing, and yes, we've all experienced some form of bullying, some worse, some less than others. So how can a court rule for compensation when it actually hasn't, this period hasn't actually occurred yet, minus the medical expenses?
Well, Viv, that will come down to the medical evidence. Now, this particular student hasn't returned to school since year 8, and she's 17 now. So clearly this bullying has really has had a massive effect on their life. So it's going to come down to what the doctors say, the psychiatrists, psychologists, about her capacity to return to any employment. Look, you can claim whatever you like as per what you can prove in court, and that's what's going to come down to medical evidence. And look, I would have thought the bigger probably claim would be the pain and suffering damages as well, John, don't you think?
Pain and suffering, the effect of the psychological damage on this person, not only now but into the future. But Viv, you are right. It is a leap of faith to say that this person will never be able to work again.
Yeah, and I find it almost adding to the psychological damage if it is deemed in their favour. The other thing to note, I mean, obviously, Tony, who's not here with us today, is away on a well-deserved break, and myself are brand ambassadors for Bully Zero. So if you are experiencing bullying on any level, be it in the workplace, be it in the schoolyard, please jump on the Bully Zero website and have a look for further information for support.
Just on this quickly before we pass on, but John, the student came from another school before going to Pres Hill, and the parents actually said to the principals in the school there, well, she's had some bullying before, please sort of look after her, and this has happened. Do you think the school are in trouble? I think they're a little bit of strife there.
The school is on notice that there are issues, and unfortunately they've disregarded that. And that'll be part of the claim.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, I guess we'll see what happens.
What I need to know as well, as a mother of children, so if I may be concerned a little bit about bringing action on behalf of my child who's experiencing bullying at their school, who's actually going to pay for that compensation? Do schools take out insurance specific for these claims?
It's the Department of Education.
Okay.
These schools, unless it's a private school run by a private organisation.
Is this a private school?
Well, not necessarily.
But they'll have their own insurance, and they're covered for situations like this.
Okay.
Okay.
The next story, fake dentists in the suburbs of Melbourne, Nunz. What's going on here?
Look, it's scary to read. There's these sort of backyard dentist rooms in the suburbs, and they're being exposed and investigated, which is a great development because they're actually looking into it.
Yes.
Two victims of alleged unregistered dentist practices can come forward and explain their story. And look, it's great because it's actually now led to the charging of this backyard dentist, and some of the damage that causes is horrendous.
Oh, some of the damages has been horrendous. But we talked about this last week, a similar unregistered practice in Meadow Heights that was happening. So really there's obviously some sort of consortium going on in this particular region, and they've put a call out for anyone who may have visited a dentist in that area. I mean, in this circumstance, they've said it's like a shed that had been set up. So I don't know how you may not have identified that this practice going on potentially wasn't registered. And some of the damages that we're talking about is a gentleman went for a teeth clean and then had 4 teeth removed and then replaced with glue.
Yeah, it's disastrous.
Unfortunately, there's a risk of HIV. Nunzio, that's
infections.
And in infection, there's a risk. Any unregistered dental work, it's a criminal offence. And now we have criminal charges in the Broadmeadows Magistrates Court regarding this issue. It's ongoing. We'll see where it takes us.
So obviously, guys, if you're seeing a new dentist that you haven't seen before and are a little bit uncertain, do check out the Department of Health Services website for all of the registered dentists you'll find on there.
Thanks, Viv. Well, this is an ongoing story. Viewers, we have a sponsors break. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back, viewers. Tonight we have a detailed show on what's in the news. Vivienne, breastfeeding ban judge left with red face. What's this all about?
Well, look, I don't know the initial circumstances surrounding this matter, but this particular news article talks about how a judge has overturned a decision to stop a mother from breastfeeding her 11-month-old child as a consequence of her receiving or getting a tattoo, arguably around her breast area, because of the likelihood of her transmitting potential diseases such as HIV and hepatitis B onto her child via the breast milk. No, this is a really, really odd case because number one, how did it find its way to the courts in the first place? You were suggesting perhaps it was a family court matter,
Exactly.
John. And number two, I mean, I don't know why a judge would deny a child right to receive milk from its mother.
Viv, in this case, the judge has apparently done some internet research. The appeal court has criticised him for that and have overturned his decision. Nunzio, this is a classic case where moral judgment and the law and, I guess, basic human freedom
Are in conflict.
Are in conflict.
Yeah, look, it was, and look, I think the right decision was eventually made, and look, it's one of those things. I think there's no right or wrong. Everyone's got different opinions, and in this case, though, legally, I think the right decision was made. Though, John.
I guess there's a view where, you know, from the conservative part of society, that tattoos are, you know, radical and.
I don't think so, Charles. They are mainstream
Now
Australia now.
but it is
Tattoos,
mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely.
You go to the beach, every person has a tattoo.
In fact, I think it's much cooler not to have a tattoo.
Okay. Well, on that note, the pawnbroker must pay $23 million. Nunz, what's all this about?
So this was a class action that was in Sydney, and a successful one in which Cash Converters has to pay back $23 million
Yes.
to about 37,000 customers who effectively they've charged over interest. They've charged interest on money or short-term loans which they provided, and the interest was excessive. The court eventually found, or the settlement agreed to. So $23 million, John, it's a pretty big settlement.
This would have been pursuant to the old Trade Practices Act.
Yes.
Via the federal court. Apparently, the federal court must approve the settlement, but it's a very big settlement.
It is, and it said $20 million is the settlement amount, $3 million is the legal fee. So, look, massive, and you know, look, those Cash Converters loans are fairly small in nature, so they really must have charged some big interest on those things.
High interest rates, exactly.
So it's applicable only to those people in New South Wales at this
Yes.
point in time, the class action, for those people who received a loan from Cash Converters between the period of July 2010 and July 2013. So if that's you, maybe they could potentially jump on the
It's just
bandwagon.
another lesson to viewers. You know, when you're signing, you know, credit contracts or anything to that effect, when it comes to interest or application fees, you've got to look at the detail, the level of detail, because you're potentially up for lots and lots of money. So be careful.
Vivienne, this is a very sad story. A teen cancer victim's family wins an apology.
Yeah, look, this is a really sad case. A 19-year-old girl named Bronte who was admitted to hospital for a rare and aggressive liver cancer, but at the time they didn't know that's what she had. Her parents were with her seeking medical advice from the panel of medical experts in this particular hospital, but they couldn't actually identify what was going on. I think that was the circumstance. And so, unfortunately, somehow, some way, one of the medical experts had actually said to Bronte's mother, stop researching on the internet. And I think, you know...
She wasn't taken seriously.
No, and
this
it's really
is the
sad.
Nottingham University Hospital in the UK, viewers. She wasn't taken seriously. She had a rare form of cancer, Nunz, which literally killed her over a few months.
Yeah, look, they've apologised, or put an apology, which is, I think, is fair in the sense of,
posthumously.
saying that obviously they should have taken her
bit
concerns more seriously. Whether that is a cause of an action is something that I'm more concerned about, because if it's so aggressive that even if they, you know, took her symptoms seriously, it sounds like they probably wouldn't have, unfortunately, you know, stopped the aggressive nature of it. So, but if they could have, there's arguably a case there on behalf of the family.
Yeah, that's right.
As in for pure psychological injury.
Yeah, nervous shock, because if they could have actually got to it earlier and stopped it or delayed it, then I think that the hospital are in trouble. And the fact that they've apologised, they've almost admitted negligence. For me, what's called legal causation would be the big issue in this one.
But the great thing is, I guess, you know, on balance, they've actually learnt from this and they're doing their best to not have this repeated again, which doesn't really help Bronte, but at least it creates awareness within the legal fraternity, within the hospital to, you know, be very, very mindful of the way that they speak to parents and patients alike.
It's a timely reminder. Nunzio, a man who's gone to court suing the police.
Yes.
He's lost his claim for what?
Well, he argued that he was capsicum sprayed in the groin, John.
Okay.
Yes, and that...
Is there anything wrong with that per se?
Well, the Justice K, the Supreme Court, found that he wasn't sprayed in the groin area,
Yes.
and he lost his case, John.
Yes. So this is a very interesting, novel case, isn't it?
It is.
Nunzio. He's gone to court alleging mistreatment by the police.
So there was obviously there was an interaction with the police, and he was apprehended, and in that he's saying that he was capsicum sprayed in the groin area.
So this occurred in Violet Town, where a couple had actually argued that the three police officers in question were heavy-handed in their approach and arrest with Mr. Biddle, and so there are a number of extenuating circumstances in and around this particular claim. I guess the thing to note is that they've been ordered to pay all costs.
The judge has found against him, vindicated the conduct of the police, the three police officers. He has to pay court costs, and unfortunately, Mr. Biddle doesn't get a chance to vindicate himself.
No.
Anyway, Nunzio, finally, viewers, before our sponsors break, Top Dog bites back.
Yeah, Judy Moran is back in the news again.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Williams case. This is about her suing the Victorian government for damages for basically assault whilst in prison. I think it's the David Phillis Centre that she's in. Yeah. There's been two specific incidents where she's been assaulted by officers in the centre. Alleged, and she's suing them. And looking at the detail of the assaults, if they are proven, I actually think she's got a case.
It's a substantial claim. The statement of claim details the extent of the physical and psychological assault against her. Now, it's all alleged. Her lawyer, George Defteros, very well known in Melbourne legal circles, has issued this damages writ on her behalf. It'll be interesting to wait and see.
Well, she's made allegations that she's got a skull fracture as well, which, look, I said, I'm not sure what the medical evidence is, but I didn't think that had occurred. But, the hip, the back, skull fracture, if they're proven, the government might be exposed for something.
It's a big claim. Viewers, we'll get back to this another time. There's a sponsors break now. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back, viewers, to an extended edition of What's in the News. Vivienne, you wanted to say something about Judy Moran.
Yeah, look, I just felt that this case was really interesting. We were talking before the break how she's bringing about two claims of assault in the periods of 2009 and 2011. I'm just wondering, does the statute of limitations apply, and why did she take so long to make these claims? And thirdly, does this really affect the likelihood of success of her claim given the extent of time that's taken?
Nunzio, you're the expert in public liability claims.
Yeah, look, legally you've generally got 3 years to sue. So arguably you could say for the 2009 incident and 2011 that she's out of time. But what the law says is it's date you discover that you've got an action. So these injuries might have manifested themselves later. She didn't get legal advice till a later point. And it's that date in which arguably you could say that your time has started. So if the skull fracture, she only was diagnosed in 2011. She got 3 years from 2011. So I think it will be an issue that the state government will raise in their defence. But generally, the court is fairly sympathetic to plaintiffs in that regard. But being her and being in prison might be a different story.
Well, Vivienne, we'll wait and see what happens in this case.
Thank you.
Nunzio, this is a very special issue regarding something that you support a lot. Essendon.
Yeah, we're back to the WADA escapade, John. So obviously the case is pending, and it's going to be heard later in the year, maybe in, they say Switzerland or Sydney. We might have to do a PI show in Switzerland.
Well, Switzerland, Lausanne, Switzerland, it's a very nice place. It's a very nice place, Nunzio. The Court of Arbitration for Sport. Yep. Could be sitting either in Lausanne, Switzerland, or Sydney.
And the process is that each party gets to appoint one arbitrator, and then there's a third independent that's chosen. And the Essendon Football Club or its players,
The Essendon 34.
the Essendon 34, have chosen. There's a former New South Wales judge in the name of Jim Spiegelman,
Yes.
who's Sydney-based, and he's also chairman of the ABC. So he'll be deciding, or one of three deciding Essendon's fate.
Yes. The other barrister from, he's a Swiss-born British QC, Romano Subbiotto.
Yes. And he was in the Lance Armstrong case.
Yes.
So he's obviously, he's got experience in that, which
Got
is
experience,
a bit of a worry.
and that doesn't sound good for the Essendon players, does it?
No, it does. Look, WADA are clearly putting their time and resources into this, and now that ASADA are actually, I think it came out a couple of weeks ago, they're contributing some money to the appeal, which for me is shocking, because if they thought they had a basis of it, they should have appealed themselves, and that's something I'd feel very strongly about.
Now there's one more judge to be appointed that hasn't been decided as yet.
Yep.
It's a wait and see, and I guess we'll be finding out shortly whether or not this hearing occurs in Sydney or in Switzerland.
Look, practicality sense, it makes sense for it to be in Sydney, and I think common sense will prevail. But if it doesn't, I've got to say I've got concerns about where this will go.
Vivienne, what do you think of WADA's attitude in this matter?
Look, the attitude I'm not too au fait with. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I defer to you guys for that. It's more about why is it even being considered to be in Switzerland, and what is Essendon's best case scenario out of this?
Well, it could be in Switzerland because that's where Court of Arbitration or the WADA organisation is based.
International organisation.
Best case, look, their appeal is upheld and it's free to play. But worst case is that they can get up to 2 years they can be suspended for, which is an absolute disaster.
And following on from this, Nunzio, you have an issue about a certain Hawthorn player and his actions.
Yeah, so on the weekend, the Essendon Hawthorn game, Sam Mitchell, did the jab, and it was on TV. And look, he, straight after the game, which I think would have been prompted by his club, he apologised, saying it was an inappropriate action, which I totally agree was idiotic.
Well, did he actually apologise? He said that it was an inappropriate action, but I don't recall hearing the word apology.
There wasn't a sorry, but he did say it's a bad look in front of kids, and his kids were at the game.
Now, he's been fined by the AFL for his actions?
No, they did make an investigation, but they decided not to fine him, which I thought was wrong.
Okay, Nunzio, well, I guess it's a wait and see with the Essendon 34.
It's polarising the community, and Saturday's game was an example of that, John.
Now, Viv, it's an ongoing issue, an ongoing saga down at the Docklands in Melbourne. Towers of fire.
Yeah, well, as a consequence of the fire that happened in Docklands a few months back, there is concern now that the most recent built buildings and apartment blocks are not compliant with the building code because they've used flammable cladding to assist in the erection of these particular towers or apartment blocks, what have you.
So this material is not appropriate.
No, it's highly flammable.
It's highly flammable. People can be trapped in a towering inferno situation.
Yeah, and so now the MFB are sort of saying now that they need to protect their firefighters until this audit has been complete in and around the safety of these buildings. So it's concerning because if a tower is on fire and the fire brigade can't actually access it, what do we do?
There's a few issues. And Nunzio, I understand there's legal ramifications here.
Yeah, there is. It's actually taken a bigger path than we thought because there's not only loss of damage for your actual your apartment and any property within your apartment, but also there's an argument that you've lost value in your apartment as well now because obviously no one wants to buy an apartment where there could be some issues with it, and also it's been open for investigation. So this one could go for a long time because I think a lot of people have lost a lot of money, and it's hard to quantify it, but that's what's going to be the job of the lawyers.
Yeah, and isn't there also an issue that came out of the Docklands fire that there's a lot of rooming, overcrowding going on within these buildings too, which in Victoria, especially in the CBD region where they're illegally housing tenants well and truly above and beyond the legal allowances for the number of people allowed to live in apartment blocks. So. Which actually contributes to the fires.
danger.
Yeah.
There's suggestions of slums being formed, Viv, in this type of context. Anyway, it's a wait and see. This will take a while, won't it?
Yeah, I think this will go for a couple of years.
Yes. Vivienne, it used to be the case that it was drink, drive, lose licence. But now it's drink, drive, lose car.
Lose car, even if it's not your own. So essentially what the government are doing, they're saying now, if you're found to be over 0.10, so over that limit, the alcohol limit, you not only will get a $627 fine.
How much?
$627.
Okay.
You will lose your car, it will be impounded, and you will lose your licence, I think, for a period of 8 months. Was that correct? 10 months.
10 months.
So, message out there, guys. Don't drink and drive, because even if it's not your car, if it's your mum's car, the boyfriend's, the husband's, they're going to lose the car because of you.
So, Nunzio, what does this mean for the owner of the car?
Well, I was going to ask you, Johnny, legally, can they take someone else's car?
Would you believe under this law, yes?
Wow.
Well, look, the government are starting to make a habit of just making laws that are suiting what they need, and I think
at the same time, we want the roads to be safe.
Look, I agree. It's not the end of the world, and eventually, I think the car will get back to its rightful owner. But look, the fact is, don't drink and drive. That's a lesson.
Viewers, would you believe that's all we've had time for tonight?
Oh my goodness, that went so fast.
Viv, thank you for your participation tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Nunzio, thank you. Viewers, go to our social media platforms. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.